On the morning of December 1st, 1948, something disturbing was discovered on Somerton Beach in Adelaide, Australia. A couple taking their daily morning walk along the shoreline, and then they came across a lifeless body of an unknown man slumped against the seawall. At first, it seemed like a tragic but straightforward case of a homeless person's death, but it quickly became apparent this situation is anything but ordinary. The man had no ID, belongings, or obvious signs of injury. Even more strange, tucked away in his pockets, investigators found a tiny scrap of paper imprinted with an indecipherable coded sequence of letters. Just who was this man, and how did he end up dead alone in the beach? And what did the mysterious code mean? Despite tremendous efforts for over 70 years, the truth has never been fully uncovered, except for a potential breakthrough in 2022, to which I'll go over later, making this one of the most baffling mysteries in the world. It was just after 6:30 a.m. on December 1st, 1948 when the man's body was first spotted, rigid and sewn up against the sand dunes of Somerton Beach. He was laying on his back, head tilted towards the ocean, appearing almost in a relaxed position. His gray hair was neatly parted, and he was dressed respectably in a suit and tie despite the summer weather. From the outset, details about the unknown man were confusing. He appeared Caucasian, estimated to be 40 to 45 years old, 5 feet 11 inches tall, and in reasonably good physical shape. All clothing labels had been deliberately removed, making it untraceable. There was no identification of any kind, no wallet, keys, or personal effects to establish who he was or where he came from. Desperate to identify the body, police circulated the man's description and image through the media, collecting any potential leads, but absolutely no one came forward to claim knowledge of him. Fingerprint records turned up no matches in any global database. It was as if the man had never officially existed until found deceased that morning. As the Somerton man's body was examined, a series of increasingly bizarre and baffling clues emerged that only deepened the mystery surrounding his death. First, hidden in the man's trousers was a tattered pocket notebook designated for Australian military personnel only. Inside were mere scraps of paper, pencil stubs, and pieces of knotted string. More peculiar was a miniature piece of paper torn from the pocket book, bearing indecipherable printed text. It was a tangled mess of letters arranged in an apparent code, with no spaces or breaks between characters. Code breakers at the time, even those from military intelligence, could not decipher what the strange jumble of symbols represented or its purpose. But perhaps the most inexplicable clues were the physical ones leading nowhere. The man's fingerprints did not match any records and databases, suggesting he may have never officially existed. There were no clues or medical conditions on the body itself that could pinpoint his identity. With the case's lack of evidence, investigators and amateur sleuths spent decades formulating theories about the Somerton man's identity and how he died. One of the most popular was that he was a spy or codes operative, with the encrypted message being top secret information. His mystery death in a public place fit the pattern of an assassination during a tense Cold War period. Others believed he was a lost sailor or merchant marine who had fallen or jumped ship near the shore, disconnected from typical identifications. His out-of-place outfit and lack of belongings aligned with this seafaring theory. Some even suggested he may have been poisoned or the victim of an organized crime hit given the lack of clear injuries. A more benign theory proposed he died that caused him to shed normal identity and seek out that remote beach location. More outlandish ideas like him being a time traveler or linked to conspiracy theories inevitably popped up, fueled by public imagination. As the case remained somewhat unsolved over the decades, it grew into one of the world's biggest body mystery obsessions. But despite relentless scrutiny, the man's identity and how he ended up alone on Somerton Beach stayed a baffling mystery. Then in early 2022, researchers claimed they may have officially solved the decades-old mystery identifying the Somerton Man. After a renewed DNA analysis, genetic genealogists alleged the body matched a man named Carl Charles Webb, an electrical engineer from suburban Melbourne who went missing around the same time period. Other circumstantial evidence included potential links between the coded message found on the body and cipher pads Webb is known to have utilized for his work. Strands of his hair also seemed to be consistent with that found in Somerton Man's suit pocket. However, Australian police pushed back against declaring the case definitively solved based on this new proposed identification. They stated more conclusive evidence was still needed to confirm Webb as the Somerton Man after so many years of fruitless investigations. The enticing possibility of solving one of the world's most famous unexplained mysteries reignited intense public intrigue, but it remained uncertain if the truth had finally emerged or if this was simply the latest in a long line of ultimately incorrect theories. Finally, even with the name potentially attached to this unidentified body, critical mysteries still linger unanswered surrounding the Somerton Man's death over 70 years ago. His definitive cause of death, whether it murder, an accident, or something else remains undetermined. And perhaps the most vexing, the meaning and purpose behind the indecipherable printed code found on his body continues eluding understanding. Some have even speculated whether the entire Somerton Man case could be a con or hoax of some kind, perpetrated for reasons unknown by a person or group seeking to prolong public fascination through misdirection over decades. But whether explicable or not, the haunting, desolate imagery of the unidentified man's corpse against the Somerton Beach dunes has cemented this case's status as an iconic, unsolved mystery sparking endless obsession. What's your theory on what really happened to the Somerton Man on the beach in 1948? Be sure to share your thoughts down below. Deep in the remote New Mexico desert in the late 1800s, a surprising artifact was uncovered by a Hispanic settler. It was a large, flat stone slab with an intricate inscription carved into its surface. Upon closer examination, experts were stunned to find the inscription appeared to be a transcript of the Ten Commandments from the Bible, written in ancient Hebrew. How did an ancient Hebrew artifact depicting a sacred biblical scripture end up buried in the American Southwest wilderness, thousands of miles from the Middle East? This incredible desert discovery launched one of the most controversial and debated archaeological mysteries of the modern age. In 1887, a man named Wolf Vigil was breaking ground to plant crops on his ranch near the village of Los Lunas, New Mexico. As he dug into the hard desert soil, his tool struck a large stone slab buried underground. After extracting the dusty relic, the soft white markings engraved into its surface came into view. The slab measured around 3 feet tall, 2 feet wide, and several inches thick. One side displayed an inscription in ancient Hebrew script, appearing to be a version of the Decalogue or Ten Commandments found in the Old Testament. The other side contained an unknown alphabetic writing system that could not be deciphered. When word spread of the artifact's biblical connection, it immediately sparked questions, skepticism, and heated debate in the scientific community over its origins and meaning. Several major theories emerged to try to explain how an engraved Hebrew inscription ended up in the New Mexico desert. One posited that the Los Lunas Decalogue stone was proof that ancient Israelite or Paleo-Hebrew seafaring explorers had contact with the Americas thousands of years before Columbus. Perhaps it was left behind from a long-lost settlement or displayed an influence on local native cultures. Another theory was that the stone was an outright hoax or forgery, manufactured to validate fringe beliefs about Hebrew ancestors traveling to the New World. Skeptics argued no authentic ancient Hebrew relic could plausibly exist in that location given the timeline. Proponents countered that inscriptions on the flip side, while undeciphered, resembled the writing systems of indigenous southwestern cultures like the Paquiao Zuni. They posited it could be evidence of colliding cultures making first encounters. With so much ambiguity around the stone's provenance and dating, the debate raged between genuine antiquity advocated by some archaeologists and clever forgery claimed by others. More investigation was clearly needed to unravel this mystery. To try to shed more light on the stone's origins, a series of archaeological excavations were carried out at the Los Lunas discovery site over several decades by teams of researchers. Their digs uncovered some tantalizing new pieces of evidence buried near the inscribed stone slab. This including finding fragments of an ancient ritual stem pipe made from stone, as well as deposits of charcoal and other engraved stone slabs or tablets. The pipe in particular seemed to hint at human inhabitants in the area. However, there was still no definitive evidence that directly dated the Hebrew inscription artifact itself. So this lack of conclusive dating or provenance from the Los Lunas stone continued fueling heated controversy and skepticism. Critics remained unconvinced the stone slab was authentic, dismissing it as an easily manufactured hoax meant to promote fringe beliefs. Proponents insisted the accumulating circumstantial evidence pointed to it being a genuine ancient relic. In recent years, new scientific analysis of DNA have reopened the debate around potential ancient Mediterranean migration to the Americas. Genetic evidence suggests there were infectious disease exchanges and even low-level contacts between southwestern native populations and explorers or settlers from the Middle East, Asia, and Europe much earlier than the Spanish conquest. In light of this new data, some researchers have revived the theory that the Los Lunas Decalogue stone could indeed be remnants of contact between ancient Israelite or Paleo-Hebrew explorers and the indigenous peoples already occupying the southwest region. Perhaps it was a marker left behind from early cultural collisions. On the other hand, skeptics still argue the stone was more likely an elaborate hoax potentially planted at the excavation site, meant to try confirming these fringe beliefs of pre-Columbian Old World visitors to the Americas. Without definitive archaeological provenance, they remain unconvinced. Finally, more than 130 years after its discovery, the Los Lunas Decalogue stone remains an archaeological conundrum speculation and source of endless debate. Whether it's an authentic ancient Hebrew artifact or an extraordinary hoax, the story of its existence in the New Mexico desert continues sparking imaginative theories and interests. This inscribed desert relic serves as a tangible reminder of the potential for unexpected cultural crossroads throughout human history. Its unsolved mystery provokes us to question how people, languages, and belief systems have migrated and collided across the globe in the ancient world. What do you think? Within the CIA's headquarters in Langley, Virginia, stands a haunting sculptural presence. Rising over 12 feet tall, the twisted copper monument is instantly captivating. Its curved metallic structure sheets densely layered with over 1,700 meticulously stamped letters and characters. At first glance, it appears to be an encrypted code or secret message straight from the mind of a brilliant CIA cryptographer. And indeed, that's precisely what the sculpture contains, a mystery that has stumped the world's elite code breakers for over 3 decades since its installation in 1989. Known as Kryptos, this sculpted puzzle is the creation of artist Jim Sanborn, commissioned by the CIA as a breathtaking piece of encrypted artwork and unparalleled cryptographic challenge. Deceptively simple in its appearance yet complex, Kryptos continues taunting anyone daring to try decrypting its final coded sequence after over 30 long years. Unlock its full inner meaning, and you may be the one of the few ever to unlock the secrets held within. In the late 1980s, artist and sculptor Jim Sanborn was approached by the CIA and commissioned to construct a unique piece of encrypted art. The agency requested a monument containing an encoded sculptural message stationed prominently at the main entryway of their newly built Langley headquarters complex. Sanborn set to work, constructing his creation, which he would ominously titled Kryptos. At its core was a mammoth twisting scroll formed from explicit copper sheets rising over 12 feet high. Densely packed into its curving surface were thousands upon thousands of precisely stamped letters, an encrypted code from Sanborn that held a secret message waiting to be cracked. When Kryptos was finally complete and installed at CIA headquarters at 1989, it underscored the intelligence community's fascination and preoccupation with cryptography and the many mysteries and unknowns surrounding their classified world. At the heart of the sculpture's mystique are the coded messages stamped into its winding copper scroll. Within the thousands of encoded characters making up Kryptos are incredibly 4 separate encrypted sections, increasing steeply in complexity. The first 3 sections were eventually solved over years of efforts by skilled code breakers. They revealed passages serving as an introduction and a purposely defiant dare from the artist to decipher the deeper meaning held within. And then there was the sculpture's final section, a seemingly indecipherable code of exactly 97 characters continuing to baffle the greatest crypto minds. Despite over 30 years of intensive efforts by CIA specialists, NSA codebreakers, and countless amateur enthusiasts around the world, this cruel finale has never been conclusively solved. What meaning, message, or truth lurks behind Kryptos' ultimate 97-character coded sequence? Its stubborn resistance to revealing these final secrets has elevated the sculpture into perhaps the most famous unsolved modern code of all time. In spite of the CIA opening up the challenge to anyone brave enough, the quest to determine the meaning of Kryptos' persistent final coded section has proven fruitless for over 30 years. Even with every decryption tool and technique available to many classified cryptography units, not a single advance has been made comprehending its 97 stubborn characters. Various hypotheses and blind alleys have reached dead ends. Some believe the artist had purposely misspelled or jumbled words to throw off patterns. Others thought subtle clues were cleverly buried as hints towards the encoded solution. But every theory has amounted to another disappointment. Jim Sanborn has done little to aid, offering only cryptic clues over the decades that information essential to fully decoding his sculpture lies hidden elsewhere in its design and structure. An insight that has proven more of a taunt than hint for codebreakers. With CIA codebreaking efforts continually failing, the agency has increasingly called upon the general public in recent years for assistance in finally cracking Kryptos' final mystery. At one point, they even launched a targeted recruitment campaign, dangling job incentives for anyone capable of revealing the encrypted message's meaning. As recent as 2020, the CIA started offering annual prize bounties for anyone able to unravel the full secrets locked away in Sanborn's 97-character code. To date, even with thousands attempting to claim the bounty, the grand mystery still remains unsolved. Tell me what you think down below. To the untrained eye, it appears merely as an antique wooden wine cabinet, ornately carved but otherwise harmless. Yet this unassuming object has become infamous worldwide, whispered about with a terrifying reputation. It's known by this chilling name, the Dybbuk Box, and allegedly houses something extraordinarily evil, dangerous, and unexplained within its compartments. Numerous owners over the decades have claimed possessing this mysterious box brought nothing but horror into their lives. Tales of disembodied voices, supernatural figures appearing, ominous paranormal disturbances, and brushes with what seemed like demonic possession itself all get attributed to its dark presence. So what exactly is the Dybbuk Box's secret? Is it merely an ordinary antique fueling overactive imaginations, or does it truly contain a trapped malicious entity, as ancestral Jewish folklore about Dybbuk spirit suggests? Unlocking this object's unsettling mystery means confronting the terrifying crossroads of paranormal forces and religious mysticism. The story of the Dybbuk Box began in 2003, when Missouri resident Kevin Mannis purchased an old wine cabinet as part of an estate sale. Upon inspecting his new antique acquisition, Mannis noticed ominous Hebrew carvings and writings adorning the exterior and two locking compartments inside. The etchings appeared to reference the idea of a Dybbuk, a restless, destructive spirit in Jewish mythology that possesses and torments the living. Further research indicated the box may have been owned by a Holocaust survivor, raising unsettling theories it could have been created to contain an evil entity picked up during those horrific events. Almost immediately after bringing the Dybbuk Box home, Mannis claimed experiencing deeply disturbing paranormal events. His home was constantly overwhelmed by foul odors, nightmares, feelings of being watched, and shadowy apparitions began plaguing him relentlessly. Desperate for answers, he sought assistance from rabbis who only advised him to reseal and forever contain a cursed object. Yet Mannis defied these warnings, instead loaning the Dybbuk Box out to others, a move that only seemed to intensify its phenomena and solidify its reputation. A paranormal investigator checking out the box was burned by its latch spontaneously scorching his skin. Another owner's child began conversing with an unseen entity and exhibiting signs of possession. The most disturbing incident involved a young man who placed the Dybbuk Box on his head just for kicks. Within hours, his body convulsed uncontrollably as if being choked by an unseen hand. In sheer panic, he coughed up a bizarre goblet of hardened scale-like mucus before feeling the entity depart. With its apparent ability to invoke fires, smells, voices, observable bodily harm, mental disturbances, and even demonic possession, owning a Dybbuk Box now meant willingly subjecting oneself to unrelenting terror. An effort was made to safely bury it in concrete, only for the container to burst open of its own accord. The legends and documented horrors surrounding this accursed object spread worldwide. Museums, desperate for the tourist allure, began clamoring to obtain the Dybbuk Box for their collection, while religious scholars demanded it to be destroyed altogether before attracting something far worse. Now, of course, not everyone was convinced the fearsome tales around the Dybbuk Box were anything more than embellishments or downright hoaxes. Skeptics pointed out there was frustratingly little verified evidence around the box's true origins and backstory. How could ownership of an antique cabinet result in such extreme supernatural events? Some theorized it may be cursed in different ways, whether created through ancient jinxes, fueled by human sacrifice, or imbued with malicious dark magic, rather than housing a natural restless spirit. Others dismissed the entire legend as simply motivated by profit and exposure, crafting a horror tale too tantalizing not to propagate across the paranormal community. The complete lack of certainties around its factual history meant imaginations could wildly run free, concocting the box's sinister possibilities and powers. At minimum, it symbolized humanity's innate fear of inexplicable evil forces and how they could manifest in mundane objects. Tell me what you think. Do you think the box is cursed? April 21st, 1977 seemed like any other quiet evening in an unassuming town of Dover, Massachusetts. But soon, a series of bone-chilling reports would emerge, claiming multiple locals had locked eyes with a creature defying logical explanation. What they described was no ordinary beast. Initial accounts told of a roughly 4-foot-tall entity with a disproportionately large, hairless, melon-sized head. Slick, rough grayish skin seemed to loosely drape over its withered body, while piercing bright orange orbs radiated from its eye sockets without any evident pupils or irises. Chilling events unfolded in 3 distinct but equally disturbing waves throughout the April 21st evening in 1977. Just after 10 p.m., a 17-year-old and his friend first claimed spotting the bizarre figure meandering along a stretch of rural road near the old abandoned Carroll School. The terrified teens would flee the area before alerting police. But not long after, another group driving nearby that same abandoned schoolhouse bore witness to the very same entity, its lanky form apparent under a streetlight. They slammed on their brakes as the hairless, glowing-eyed creature scurried into the woods nearby with an unnatural swaying walk. Around midnight, the final reported encounter occurred when yet another couple stumbled upon the figure in their headlights, hunched next to a wall clutching some kind of green object before scrambling off when spotted. Despite being complete strangers with no knowledge of each other's prior experiences that April night, each group supplied investigators with eerily similar visions of this entity. Details poured in from the overwhelmed eyewitnesses enabled investigators to produce a shocking sculptural rendering. The resulting fiberglass model, crafted by famed artist Lauren Coleman, depicted an unnervingly lifelike version of the recounted monster. There it stood in all its grotesque glory. The hairless oblong skull, leathery gray epidermis stretched, disturbingly lean physique, and those piercing oversized orange eye sockets boring straight ahead. This Dover demon, as it became dubbed, perfectly encapsulated the eyewitness descriptions and only deepened the mystery. Of course, numerous theories proposing ordinary explanations for these extraordinary sightings immediately emerged. Some suggested an unknown birth defect, contending perhaps the witnesses observed a newborn malformed animal like a calf, foal, or even a moose wandering the woods around Dover. Its gaunt features, lack of fur, and lanky frame could conceivably warp perspectives. Others claimed effects of lighting or angles may have drastically distorted perceptions that evening, making a raccoon or other common woodland creatures seem paranormally demonic under the precise right circumstances. Moreover, a number dismissed the accounts altogether as elaborately orchestrated hoax or prank, somehow ensnaring multiple group of eyewitnesses without any party ever admitting to the ruse. How such a scheme could be pulled off plausibly remains unexplained. For those convinced the sightings were unequivocally legitimate, only truly fringe theories provided explanations for this apparent visitor from the unknown. Could it have been an extra-dimensional entity encroaching upon our plane of existence from a parallel universe? Or perhaps previously undiscovered supernatural creature or cryptid species indigenous to the remote woodlands around Massachusetts? Still, others claim this figure marked first contact with an alien being, using its bizarre and grotesque appearance as a terrifying smokescreen to study unsuspecting human reactions upon sight. From the skeptical perspective, eyewitness testimony, no matter how credible or numerous, does not inherently confirm any abnormal reality. Even vivid, collective hallucinations can't be ruled out when delving into the extraordinarily unexplained. Despite being plastered across newspapers, TV reports, and paranormal chronicles after that harrowing April night, credible sightings of the Dover demon essentially ceased as soon as they erupted. Outside of alleged footprints and suspicious wastepaper baskets overturned that evening, all trails towards identifying or locating this unexplained anomaly went permanently cold. So over 4 decades later, its bizarre story and origin remains an inexplicable conundrum. Was it simply a few hours of mass delusion given life through eyewitness misidentification, an interdimensional house guest briefly overstepping our reality's boundaries before retreating, or indeed one of Earth's last remaining unverified cryptids, destined to remain mostly undocumented but ready to re-emerge from the forests around Dover? What's undeniable in April 21st, 1977 represented an intersection of the strangely unexplained manifesting before multiple stunned eyewitnesses. The so-called Dover demon has become a permanent fixture of paranormal lore and a reminder that not all corners of earthly existence can be easily categorized or understood. So that's it. That's the 5 mysteries of the video. Thank you for sticking to the end. If you're intrigued by these type of content and topics, please consider to subscribe to my channel, Echoes. More videos to come soon, but until then, see you all soon. So what's your take? Subscribe and let me know down in the comments below.